video is sponsored by all those series that we really enjoyed and then forgot about while we were waiting for the next book. Hello my lovely friends, it's Margaret, and it's time to nerd out about books. This is the second video in my 2019 Need to Read series, which is, and it is coincidentally the video about series that I need to start or finish in 2019. There just have been so many series that I've been hearing about, and I've been going, I need to read those, but I keep putting them off, and like I have so many other things. So I'm making a concerted effort to, depending on where I am with the series, either start it or finish it. So I am here with, I think, 7 series that I need to finish, and 7 series that I need to start, as well as 4 honorable mentions, because I've almost finished the series, I just need to read the final dang book. Starting with the honorable mentions, there are 4 series where I just have the last book. That's all I've got. I just need to read the last book, and for some reason, I have not read the last book yet. But the first of those is the Zeros series by Scott Westerfeld. This is the final book, Nexus. It's about kids who end up having superpowers, and the only, thing that they can see that kind of connects all of them is that they were all born in the year 2000. They're not quite sure why they have these superpowers, but they call themselves the Zeros because they were born in the year 2000. It's a mess. The last book kind of broke me a little bit. I was very unhappy with it. But I do want to see how it turns out, because I'm hoping that something that happened in the last book does not mean what I think it means, or what it could mean. I really am just hoping that it does not mean, because that was one of my favorite characters. And also my favorite relationship in the book. The next series I need to finish is the Darkest Mind series. I have the last book. It is In the Afterlife. I need to read it. Yeah, I do. Also, I need to finish the Talon series by Julie Kagawa. I had this as an audiobook, and then I didn't have time to read it before I finished my other audiobook. But I absolutely adore the series. I almost gave up on it after the 3rd book, but I found spoilers that told me that I should not have given up on it, so I didn't give up on it. And I love it. This is about dragons. There are dragons, were-dragons, actually, that can turn into people. And there's a lot of stuff that I'm confused about, and I hope is going to be answered in this book. And the final one is probably the book that's been on this list the longest, because I read the first 2 books back in college. Okay, guys? That's 9 years ago. I might need to reread the first couple of books, but I don't know, because this follows a completely different character, but that's Bitter Blue. I need to finish the Graceling series by Kristen Kishore. I've been waiting to get Bitter Blue on audiobook, because I listened to the first 2 on audiobook, and I was hoping my library would get it, and then they just never did. And now, to get into the main event. The first of the series that I really need to finish, and I have quite a few books still left to go, is the Miss Peregrine series. I need to read Hollow City and Library of Souls and Map of Days now, because the series is being continued on. It focuses on this group of children who all of them are slightly strange. They're slightly different. There's something about them that makes them not quite human. And so Jacob stumbles upon these children because his grandfather used to tell him stories about growing up in Miss Peregrine's home for peculiar children, because his grandfather and he both have a power that allows them to see these things called hollows, which are evil peculiars hunting other peculiars so that they can eat them, basically. They need them to survive or something. I don't remember entirely what it was about. It's been a while since I read the first book, but this is one of my friends has been waiting for me to finish this series, so I really do need to finish this series, especially since I have the 2nd book. I really did enjoy it. I love the fact, because it's mixed media, so we also have you have pictures in addition to the text, and the pictures kind of inform and enhance the story. I love books that have illustrations and pictures in them. The next series that I need to finish, because I'm halfway through it at this point, hence the reason I have the 4th book. But I'm halfway through the Vampire Academy series by Richelle Mead. I really loved her Bloodlines series, and so I decided I wanted to pick up Vampire Academy and read it, and I'm enjoying it. It's better than Twilight, and it has vampires. I love Rose. There are some questionable things with the romance, but at the same time, because it is fictional, there are things that I'm okay with excusing in fiction that I would be like, this is an issue in real life. But the characters in fiction can't be anything besides what the author says they are, and so if the author says that they have the purest intentions, yes, okay, I'm okay with that. I'm good with that. The first book is about Rose and Lissa, and Lissa is a vampire, and Rose is a Dhampir. And the Dhampir basically are part vampire, part human hybrids, and their job is to protect the pure-blooded vampires. They spend their entire childhood/adolescence training to do this. And so Rose is very good at her job, and she and Lissa are connected because of something that happens that I can't really tell you about because that's a spoiler. People are after Lissa, and Rose has to protect her. It's a gorgeous, trashy vampire novel, and I love it. I'm really enjoying it. Stuff went down in the last book, and I knew this stuff was going to happen because spoilers. There are lots of spoilers for this series and the Bloodline series, by the way. Oops. But it still hurt that happened. I mean, I know what happens and how it is resolved, but it still hurt. The next series is a newer series. I only discovered it last year, and that is The Remnant Chronicles by Mary E. Pearson. This is about Leah, and she is a princess, and so the book opens with her being betrothed, and like the night before her wedding day, to this prince that she has never met, and she is being forced to marry this young man, and she doesn't like it, so she decides she's going to run away. So she and her best friend run away, and they go and live in this tiny seaside town, and they're very, very happy, and then the prince and an assassin come looking for her, kind of in disguise. And it is fantastic. I was not liking this book for quite a bit of it, and that is because I misread some of the signs, and then when I saw the twist, I was like, I am diehard for this series. I don't really want a lot of time to pass between me finishing the rest of the series, so I'm hopefully going to get to it very, very soon. Number 4 on this list is the Shades of London series by Maureen Johnson. I don't remember much about this, except that it's about a girl who goes to a boarding school in London, and there's ghosts. She can see ghosts. And she ends up seeing Jack the Ripper's ghost, and Jack the Ripper's ghost is coming back to kill people. So I really, really enjoyed this series. The second book wasn't out yet, so I didn't have it. It's a messy situation. I wasn't able to buy the next book, and I completely forgot about this series until I was cleaning off my bookshelf. I need to get back into this series and get to the third book, because I think the third book is the last book, but I could be wrong about that. But apparently Maureen Johnson is like the queen of boarding school hijinks. So I need to read this. Another series that I'm about halfway through is the Books of Bairn series. It's 4 books, and it's basically like a retelling of different fairy tales. The first book is The Goose Girl. It's by Shannon Hale, and I really have liked the first 2 books. I really loved The Goose Girl. I loved In a Burning. There was a plot point that was kind of like unnecessary in a Burning, considering that it's a YA book. But at the same time, it made me as a shipper very happy. But I need to do it. I need to do it. I need to finish this series. So hold me accountable, guys. I need to actually pick it up. It's been a couple of, I think I read In a Burning 2 years ago. But again, it's not one that you have to have, like, they're about different characters in each book. So I think I'll be fine not rereading the first few. The next series on this list, number 6, is going to be Crazy Rich Asians by Kevin Kwan. I read the first book. I enjoyed the first book. I really want to see what happens in the rest of Nick and Rachel's story. Crazy Rich Asians is about Rachel and her boyfriend's massive, crazy, ridiculously rich family. When she goes to Singapore to go to a wedding with him, and she doesn't realize that he is one of Singapore's most eligible bachelors. And she's kind of having to hold her own against like his mom and a bunch of the people who just don't think she belongs, because she's American-born Chinese and like doesn't understand their way or their culture. And it was a very interesting read, and I'm interested to see where a lot of things go in that series. The main character of that series isn't Rachel, it is the family. I have a review if you are interested in more of my thoughts on that one. The final series that I need to finish. I read the first book, liked the first book, started the second book, got distracted. So I need to finish the second book and the third book. I'm going to have to reread the second book. I know I'm going to have to. But that is the Magnus Chase series. I stopped somewhere at the very beginning of Hammer of Thor because I had other books that had to go back to the library, and I owned this one. And then I didn't own the last one, so I wasn't in a huge hurry. But my brother so kindly gifted me the final book for Christmas, so I need to finish this series. This is about Magnus Chase. He is a homeless kid living on the streets of Boston. He is related to one of the characters from the Percy Jackson series. So we get to see that character quite a bit in this series, actually, which makes me very, very happy. It really does. But one day, he ends up coming across this magical sword, and it gets him into a whole bunch of trouble, and he discovers that he is actually descended from Norse gods. While he's discovering all of this stuff, he accidentally gets plucked up and sent to Valhalla, which technically he wasn't dead at the time that he was sent up to Valhalla, so there's a whole bunch of... It's going to be interesting to see what happens there. How that's resolved. It's Rick Riordan. I love Rick Riordan. He is He is my favorite writer of all time. Like, the Percy Jackson series and the Heroes of Olympus series are my favorite series, hands down. Like, number 1 series of my life is the Heroes of Olympus series, and then Percy Jackson right underneath that. I want to love this as much as I love the Percy Jackson series. I don't know that I will, but I want to. So I need to finish this series. It's about time. I can't call I'm behind on Rick's series, so I'm just starting to sound like a bad Rick Riordan fan. So those are all of the series, that's a lot of them, but those are all of the series that I need to finish in 2019, or I would like to finish in 2019, or make some progress in 2019. Now we're going to talk about 7 series that I would like to start in 2019. I don't know that I'm going to necessarily finish them this year, but I would like to make a start, because I've been hearing good things about them. Some of them have, some of them have the final book coming out soon, or at least sometime this year, so I do. Some of them are completed, which is the case for this first book I'm going to talk about, and that is the Daughter of Smoke and Bone series by Laini Taylor. It sounds fascinating. It's about Carew, and she has all of these memories, and she's drawing these things that don't exist in our world, but she has these memories from another world, and so she knows something's up, and then she meets someone who's like, hey, yeah, you lived in this other world, and apparently there was something happened with a boy. Well, apparently there was like some sort of Romeo and Juliet situation, and she got sent to our world, from what I understand. I don't know much, except that they have powers, and there is a forbidden romance. If you've been here, you know me. You know I don't need much more than that, okay? Okay. The next series that I need to start, I was supposed to start last year, and I mean, it's 2019, Margaret. It is time to start The Lunar Chronicles by Marissa Meyer. I love her Renegade series. I loved Heartless. I need to start this because this is fairy tale retellings in space. I love retellings. I love retellings in space. So why haven't I read this series? I don't know. I've had this book for years. Years. I don't understand why I haven't read this yet. I don't. Do I need to really tell you all that much? Because it's called Cinder. So obviously this is about Cinderella in space. So many people enjoy this series. So many people love this series. It's about a cyborg Cinderella. I have a magnet with her on it somewhere from LitJoy Crate. I don't know. Anyways, I love, Cinderella is one of my favorite stories to have retold, and there are so many clever ways that you can retell this story, because it doesn't necessarily have to be a direct retelling. Like, technically the novel I am working on is a Cinderella retelling, sort of, in ways, if you look at it the right way. This is probably a more direct retelling, like actual intentional retelling, because mine was not an intentional retelling, but this is a more intentional retelling. I've heard so many good things about this series. So many people that I respect and admire and love their reading tastes have loved this series, so I need to read this series. The next series on this list is going to make some people happy, and that is the Sherlock Holmes series by Brittany Cavallaro. This is about Sherlock Holmes and Jamie Watson, and they are the descendants of Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson. James Watson, I think his name might actually be James Watson. But I keep hearing about this. Again, I love retellings, and I love Sherlock Holmes. Like, I don't necessarily know if I love the source material, but I've loved most of the retellings that I have seen, like the movies, mostly movies and TV shows that I have seen. So, and I also really like kind of mystery suspense type plots. So this takes place at a boarding school, and Charlotte and Jamie are framed for murder, and so, or it looks like it might be them. So in order to clear their names, they kind of have to solve the murder. You see where I'm going with this? Just from the little bit that I've heard, Jamie Watson already sounds like he's just 100% done with everything, and I love characters like that. So I think I'm going to really enjoy this. Also, the covers are just absolutely gorgeous. They are. The next series that I need to start in 2019 is the Diviner series by Libba Bray. I have heard so many good things about this. It takes place in the 1920s. There's magic. There is a girl who she goes to live with her uncle in the city, and she has a special power that she can touch objects and she knows some information by touching them. I don't entirely remember what it was, but that kind of gets her into trouble, and so she gets sent to live with her uncle. I hear there is a fantastic group dynamic, that there are great side characters, and I love a good, well-fleshed out side character group dynamic. It's fantastic. Well, basically, magic, murder, 1920s. Sounds great. I want to read it. It's a chunker. I've heard it's super creepy, so we'll see, but I also don't get creeped out easily, so also we'll see. The next series that I need to start, this is another one. This is one that the final book is coming out this year. I think the Sherlock Holmes series, the final book is already out, or is coming out next month. But this is one, the final book is coming out this year, and that is the Stalking Jack the Ripper series by Carrie Maniscalco. This is about Audrey Rose, and she wants to be a forensic scientist in, like, the Victorian era, whenever Jack the Ripper was around. I don't entirely remember the exact dates. She's been studying forensics with her uncle, but people, you know, she's a girl in Victorian era. People didn't think women could do much in the Victorian era. At least not well-born women. And then, I mean, they didn't think the low-born women could do much either, but you didn't have a choice if you were a low-born woman. So she's a girl who wants to be in science in a historical fiction novel, so that's a problem. I hear that the romance is super, super cool, and that the love interest is very swoon-worthy and fantastic, and so I'm going to read this book because it sounds just right up my alley. The next series, I don't have a physical copy with me because I could not find a physical copy, but my brother does have it on Audible, and that is the Wheel of Time series by Robert Jordan. Partly I want to read this because I know Brandon Sanderson finished it, and I love Brandon Sanderson, and I want to read everything he has ever written. The first book is The Eye of the World, which I will have up here. It is an adult fantasy series that I've heard a lot about. Sounds very like allegorical and kind of Lord of the Rings-ish. So I love Lord of the Rings. I love high fantasy. I don't read as much adult high fantasy as I used to, so I figure why not? Sounds like a good series to try out. Speaking of adult fantasy and adult sci-fi, the next series that I need to start, and I'm planning on starting in February because it's one of my books on my February TBR for Black History Month, so that is the Broken Earth Trilogy by N.K. Jemisin. This is the first book, the 5th season. From what I understand, this is about Essen, and she comes home to find that her husband has murdered their son and run off with their daughter, and so she goes to rescue her daughter from her husband. There is an empire falling apart. Earth is in this place where, like, you go through what are considered seasons, and from each when the seasons switch, you end up with this great period of upheaval. And so she's dealing with political mess and geological mess, and she's having to also try and find and rescue her daughter in the middle of all of this mess that's happening. And it sounds really good. It's a sci-fi dystopian, and I'm very much into sci-fi right now, and I'm just gonna ride out that sci-fi wave. So those are all the series that I definitely want to get to in 2019. Can I do it? I don't know. We will revisit this video later, I promise. We are gonna revisit this list or this video later somehow, and we will compare at the end of the year whether or not I've actually made these goals, because I'm not starting, like, it's a lot of books over there. You can't see the mess on my bed, but like there are a lot of books over there. I'm not going to start all there. Most of these are going back to the library until I can get around to them. That's just how it's gonna work. Let me know down below a series that you would like to start or finish in 2019, and what about that series appeals to you. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. Also, hit that subscribe button. I make videos 2 to 3 times a week about books and writing, and I would love to see your lovely face here on a regular basis. You can also find me on Instagram and Twitter. Those are both at the word nerd with a 3 in nerd instead of the E. That is it for now, my friends. Happy reading, and I will see you later when we will talk about more wordy, nerdy things. Bye!